Hollywood's golden age was a glittering dream factory, or so they wanted you to believe. But behind the shimmering gowns and silver screens, a different kind of machinery was grinding away. One designed to chew up women and spit out stars, has-beens, and casualties. Ever wonder how many legendary movies were actually built on the bones of exploited actresses and discarded dreams? Here's the real story. 10 films that didn't just feature women. They weaponized the system against them. Ready to have the Hollywood myth cracked wide open? What Price Hollywood didn't just predate A Star is Born. It laid out the entire nightmare playbook. Mary Evans, played with heartbreaking innocence by Constance Bennett, is a waitress plucked from obscurity and thrust headlong into the world of movie stardom. Sounds like a fantasy, right? Except it's a fantasy with a body count. The movie wastes no time stripping away the Cinderella veneer. Mary's ascent comes courtesy of a self-destructive director, Max Carey, who's just as volatile as the studio bosses holding the puppet strings. As Mary's fame skyrockets, her personal life nosedives. Her marriage collapses under the weight of her success. Max spirals into alcoholic ruin, and the men in her life demand she pick between love, loyalty, and her own ambition. Spoiler: no matter what she chooses, she's punished. The message is blunt. Hollywood is a meat grinder, especially for women with dreams of independence. Director George Cukor doesn't flinch from the ugly details. The studios gobble up Mary's youth and talent, then dangle her on a string when it suits their agenda. When Max finally succumbs to his demons, Mary is left picking up the shattered pieces, condemned to bear not just her grief, but the blame for outgrowing her proper place. The double standard is baked into every frame. A woman is allowed to shine, as long as she never outshines the men around her. What Price Hollywood isn't just a cautionary tale. It's a razor-sharp indictment of a system built to chew up ambitious women and reward them with heartbreak. Nearly a century later, the question it posed still haunts the business. How much is a woman's soul worth to Hollywood, and who gets to cash in? A Star is Born, 1937 and 1954. If there's a Hollywood fairy tale with a knife in its back, it's A Star is Born. Forget the swooning romances and red carpet glow-ups. This story is pure tragedy in a ball gown. Every version of A Star is Born, but especially the original 1937 classic and Judy Garland's devastating 1954 remake, runs on the same twisted fuel. A woman's meteoric rise is always bought at the price of a man's downfall, and guess who gets left holding the emotional bag? Meet Esther Blodgett, the plucky small-town girl who scrapes her way up to the big leagues. She's discovered by Norman Maine, a fading matinee idol whose career is sliding into oblivion, thanks in no small part to his own self-destruction. He gives Esther her shot, and she gives him every ounce of support she has, only to watch her dreams become a slow-motion car crash. As Esther's star ascends, Norman collapses under the weight of addiction and jealousy. His decline is public, humiliating, and, in the end, fatal. But here's the real twist. Esther isn't allowed to just mourn and move on. The industry and the audience need her guilt, her tears, her devotion to the broken man who helped make her a star. Her happiness? Off the table. Even her identity gets a makeover. Courtesy of the studio, she's Vicki Lester now, a fresh product on the shelf. The film might sell her transformation as a triumph, but the subtext is unmistakable. Hollywood only lets women win if they're willing to be remade, renamed, and emotionally shackled to the men who built them. The kicker? Every time the story gets retold, and it's been remade more than almost any other Hollywood film, it's another chance to reinforce the same brutal message. The price of female ambition is always male tragedy, and a woman's biggest sin is wanting a career on her own terms. A Star is Born is more than a melodrama. It's Hollywood's recurring love letter to its own patriarchal playbook, dressed up in torch songs and tears. The bad and the beautiful, 1952. If you ever wondered how Hollywood's dream factory actually runs, The Bad and the Beautiful is basically an instruction manual for how to build an empire on the backs of discarded women and a few doomed men for flavor. This isn't just a film about ambition. It's about weaponized charm, emotional carnage, and the collateral damage left behind by a producer who'll do anything for a hit. And when it comes to collateral, women are always the most disposable currency. Kirk Douglas's Jonathan Shields is the archetype of the Hollywood puppet master, a man who sees people, especially vulnerable women, as stepping stones to his next big triumph. Lana Turner's Georgia Lorison is the ultimate tragic muse, plucked from obscurity, spun into stardom, and then cast aside the second she becomes inconvenient or starts wanting something for herself. You can practically smell the cigar smoke and broken promises every time Shields wheels and deals behind the scenes. His playbook? Seduce, use, discard, repeat. The film is structured as a series of betrayals, one more personal and shattering than the last. Georgia's story isn't just about heartbreak. It's a blueprint for how Hollywood grooms and gaslights women, selling them on the idea of family and art, then slamming the door as soon as they outlive their usefulness. The fact that the film is so glamorous, so intoxicating, is all part of the trick. It's a poisoned love letter to a system built on exploitation. By the time the credits roll, the success Shields leaves in his wake is hollow, haunted, and completely male-defined. Georgia, like so many real-life actresses, is a superstar only as long as she plays by the rules, and the rules were never written with her happiness in mind. The Bad and the Beautiful isn't just a cautionary tale. It's a dark, glittering mirror held up to an industry that turns ambition into ammunition and women into easy targets. The Star, 1952. What's more brutal than watching your youth slip away in Hollywood? Watching the entire system close its doors, change the locks, and toss your legacy in the bargain bin. That's The Star, and Bette Davis delivers it with the subtlety of a sledgehammer to the Academy's glass ceiling. This isn't some dignified tale of aging with grace. It's a raw, sometimes desperate autopsy of a town that loves women only when they're young, beautiful, and marketable. Bette Davis plays Margaret Elliott, a former screen queen clawing for relevance as her fame fades and the industry moves on to fresher faces. There's no fairy tale comeback here. Instead, Margaret finds herself hustling through humiliating auditions, pawning her own Oscar to pay the bills, and facing sneers from studio execs who used to beg for her attention. Hollywood has always been a town with a short memory, but when it comes to women past their prime, it's got amnesia on demand. The pain isn't just financial, it's existential. Margaret's self-worth has been tied so tightly to her screen persona that she literally can't function off camera. Her every attempt to revive her career is met with condescension and outright mockery, especially from the male power brokers who hold the keys to the kingdom. The movie's most biting scenes are almost too real, Margaret pleading for scraps of dignity, while men decide if she's still worth it. Spoiler, they've already made up their minds. What sets The Star apart is its refusal to sugarcoat the aftermath. Margaret isn't granted redemption because she learns her place. She claws back a shred of dignity by facing her own reflection, not the industry's. Davis's performance is raw, messy, and searingly honest, a middle finger to the Hollywood myth that there's anything glamorous about being a woman discarded by the machine. For every comeback story, there are 100 Margarets left in the shadows. And that's the real Hollywood ending most never see. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? 1962. Ever wondered what happens to Hollywood's golden girls after the spotlight dies? Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? Serves up the answer, twisted, tragic, and splattered in old mascara. Don't be fooled by the gothic camp. This is a razor-sharp, vicious take on how Hollywood raises up its women, then drops them like yesterday's headshot, pitting them against each other until there's nothing left but bitterness and blood. Bette Davis, and Joan Crawford star as the ultimate faded icons. Sisters Jane and Blanche Hudson, once adored, now rotting in a crumbling mansion on the edge of showbiz oblivion. Jane was a child star, who aged out of cute and straight into crazy, her former fame a curse she can't escape. Blanche, once the more serious actress, is now wheelchair-bound after a mysterious accident. Their lives are a hellscape of regret, resentment, and psychological warfare, a grotesque microcosm of the industry that shaped and then shattered them. The film isn't just about personal rivalry, it's about a system that creates monsters by design. Jane's madness isn't born in a vacuum. It's the byproduct of an industry that idolizes youth, chews through its talent, and tosses aside anyone who fails to stay on brand. The real horror here isn't just Jane's cruelty. It's how the system set her up for it, stoking envy and insecurity until she had nothing left to live for except tormenting her equally broken sister. What makes Baby Jane so cutting is the way it weaponizes the real-life rivalry between Davis and Crawford, two actresses Hollywood itself discarded when they were no longer bankable. The film is a dark, self-referential howl, a warning that beneath every glittering Oscar statue is a mountain of broken careers, ruined friendships, and women fighting over the crumbs. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane isn't just a horror story. It's Hollywood's ugliest truth, served with lipstick-stained teeth and a manic laugh. All About Eve, 1950. If you think Hollywood is all about sisterhood and supporting actresses, All About Eve is here to laugh you right off the red carpet. Bette Davis's Margot Channing is a living legend, and in this movie, legend means fading queen whose throne is under constant attack. Enter Eve Harrington, the sweet-faced fan who starts as an admirer and ends as a ruthless usurper, ready to rip out throats with a polite smile. Forget fairy tales. This is showbiz, and in showbiz, every woman is one standing ovation away from being replaced. At first glance, All About Eve is a dazzling backstage drama about ambition, aging, and the price of fame. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find a surgical dissection of Hollywood's ugliest habit, turning women into gladiators and making them battle to the death for a slice of relevance. The men in this film? Mostly bystanders or puppet masters, egging on the blood sport while keeping their own hands clean. The real action is between Margot and Eve, two women locked in a high-heeled game of chess with no rules and no winners. What's so biting here is the way the industry uses women up and pits them against one another. Margot is terrified of turning into yesterday's news. Eve is hungry for the spotlight, willing to betray anyone who stands in her way. The brilliance and the tragedy of the film is how it exposes the impossible double standard. Women are supposed to be eternally young, endlessly talented, and always grateful, but only as long as they never threaten the status quo. By the end, All About Eve isn't just a cautionary tale, it's a prophecy. The movie's final shot, with another young hopeful already eyeing Eve's crown, is a wink and a warning. The cycle never stops. For every Margot, there's an Eve in the wings. For every Eve, 1,000 more waiting in the shadows. In Hollywood, loyalty is optional. Survival is everything. Sunset Boulevard, 1950. Step into the dark heart of Hollywood, and you'll find Sunset Boulevard, the ultimate cautionary tale for any woman who dares to believe that talent and love can protect her from the industry's meat grinder. Gloria Swanson's Norma Desmond isn't just a character. She's a warning sign written in neon across the Walk of Fame. In Hollywood, women are only as valuable as their last close-up. Norma was once a silent screen goddess, adored by millions and courted by the studios. But as sound swept in and tastes changed, Hollywood decided it didn't need her anymore. Now she's a faded icon, locked in her crumbling mansion, clinging to memories and delusions of grandeur. When desperate screenwriter Joe Gillis crashes into her orbit, Norma grabs on with all the claws of a starlet fighting extinction. Their relationship is a slow-motion car wreck. He's using her for a payday. She's using him for the illusion that someone, anyone, still cares. The real villain in Sunset Boulevard isn't Norma's madness, but the industry that drove her to it. Hollywood chews through its leading ladies, worshiping their youth and beauty, then tossing them aside the minute they're no longer box office gold. Norma's spiral isn't just personal tragedy, it's institutional design. Every time she utters, "I am big," it's the pictures that got small. You can feel the weight of every discarded actress echoing through the halls of movie history. Director Billy Wilder doesn't flinch from the grotesque, the camp, or the heartbreak. The mansion, the faded photos, the endless loop of Norma's own films. They're all monuments to Hollywood's favorite pastime, building up women just to enjoy the spectacle of their fall. Sunset Boulevard isn't just a noir. It's a black-gloved slap to the face of anyone who still believes in happy endings for women in showbiz. Norma's final descent isn't insanity. It's clarity, delivered with a killer close-up. They shoot horses, don't they? 1969. Don't let the release date fool you. They shoot horses, don't they? Might have hit screens in 1969, but its heart is pure Golden Age cruelty. Set during the Great Depression, the film turns a brutal dance marathon into a sick spectacle, where desperate people, especially women, are broken for the amusement of a gawking crowd. Hollywood may not be the setting, but its fingerprint is all over the exploitation, manipulation, and misery. Jane Fonda's Gloria is the poster child for dashed dreams, smart, cynical, and completely out of options. She enters the dance contest because, like so many before her, she's chasing the American dream, or at least enough money to survive. The marathon is pure sadism, disguised as entertainment. Contestants are forced to dance for hours, days, weeks, collapsing from exhaustion while the audience cheers. The master of ceremonies is part carnival barker, part ringmaster, making sure the suffering stays just entertaining enough to sell tickets. Gloria's story is an allegory for the way Hollywood and the world treat women who refuse to play by the rules. She's tough, unlikable, and completely honest about what it takes to survive, which makes her even more disposable in the eyes of the people profiting from her pain. The film's bleak, gut-punch ending isn't just tragic, it's an indictment. When Gloria, facing the utter pointlessness of her suffering, asks to be put out of her misery, the message is clear. In this system, women are only valuable as long as they're useful, and mercy is in short supply. They shoot horses, don't they? Is a dance of despair, but also a chilling metaphor for every young woman lured to Hollywood by dreams, only to find herself ground underfoot. If you ever thought showbiz was a fair game, this movie is here to stomp on that illusion, high heels and all. Mildred Pierce, 1945. Sometimes Hollywood tells you it's making a story about a strong woman. Then you watch Mildred Pierce and realize the strength on display is just another trap, baited with misery and laced with blame. Joan Crawford's Mildred is a mother clawing her way out of poverty, building a business empire from scratch when her husband walks out. On paper, she's an inspiration. On screen, she's a one-woman cautionary tale. No matter how hard she works or how much she sacrifices, she's always set up to lose. Here's the hook. Mildred's greatest enemy isn't poverty, or even the men who underestimate her, but her own daughter, Veda. The girl's insatiable ambition and contempt for her mother turn every victory into a punishment. The film spares no opportunity to remind you that a woman with ambition will be punished, if not by the world, then by her own family. Even Mildred's independence is twisted back on her, as the men around her see her success as an affront, a disruption of the natural order. What really drives the knife in is the way Mildred's story is framed. The cops, the ex-husband, the snooty friends, all take turns painting her as the real problem, the woman who dared to want more. Crawford plays her as both fierce and vulnerable, A survivor who keeps getting up, even as life lands blow after blow. But the script stacks the deck. Every triumph is just a setup for the next fall. By the final reel, the message is clear. For women in the world of Mildred Pierce, and, by extension, 1940s Hollywood, success comes at a price you'll never stop paying. The system lets you climb, but only so it can watch you tumble back down, blaming you for every bruise and heartbreak along the way. If that isn't Hollywood's definition of empowerment, what is? The Big Knife, 1955. The Big Knife isn't just a title. It's a warning. This film slices right through Hollywood's self-serving myths, exposing the cutthroat reality behind the scenes. And while its main character is a man, the movie's real message is about the collateral damage, especially the women, left in the industry's wake. Charles Castle, played with nervy desperation by Jack Palance, is a movie star cornered by the studio system. Every decision he makes is just another trap set by the powerful men who run the show. And who pays the price? You guessed it. The women who love him, trust him, and stand by his side. Ida Lupino's Marion Castle is the beating heart of this tragedy. She's smart, loyal, and utterly powerless. Her marriage, her future, even her safety are all bargaining chips in the studio's endless games. Marion's suffering isn't just personal, it's institutional. The movie lays bare how women are used as leverage, shamed for speaking out, and left to pick up the pieces after the men in their lives make one cowardly deal after another. The blackmail, the threats, the endless cover-ups. Marion's entire existence is dictated by the whims of men who see her as nothing more than a tool or a liability. But the Big Knife isn't content with simple victimhood. Marion fights, pleads, and ultimately demands her husband choose integrity over compromise. The tragedy is, in Hollywood's world, integrity is a luxury few women can afford, and almost never get to keep. The final act, where Castle's own self-destruction dooms them both, isn't just a personal failure, but an indictment of the entire system that rewards silence and punishes anyone, especially women, who won't play along. By the closing scene, you realize The Big Knife isn't about one doomed actor. It's about every woman sacrificed on the altar of male ambition and studio power. If the industry is a machine, women are the gears it grinds down first. So there you have it, the golden age of Hollywood, painted in shades of ambition, heartbreak, and hypocrisy. For every shimmering gown and legendary smile, there was a price paid in silence, sacrifice, and broken dreams, most often by women who dared to want more. Which of these films hit you the hardest? Or did we miss a classic that should be on the list? Drop your thoughts below, hit subscribe, and keep questioning the myths. Because behind every legend, there's a story Hollywood hoped you'd never see.